In this video, I'll take 10 showing feedback forms and generate a structured seller report. The 3 recurring themes: the primary objection, specific actionable recommendations with data backing, and a suggested conversation opener with my seller, in 8 minutes using Claude. Normally, this analysis takes me 2 hours, and I still dread the conversation afterward. Here's the workflow that changed that. Before we start, quick disclaimer. This is a productivity demo, not professional advice. The data on screen is fictional. Real estate rules vary by country and state. Check your broker and local regulations before using any of this with real clients. Some tool links are affiliate. Full disclosure in the description. Now, the workflow. Here's the situation. You've been on the market for 2 weeks. You've had 10 showings. The feedback has been trickling in through your showing service. A mix of online forms, text messages from buyer's agents, maybe a couple of voicemails. Some of it is specific, some of it is vague, some of it is contradictory. And now your seller is calling you asking, what's the market saying? That question deserves a real answer, not a summary of what you remember from skimming the feedback on your phone. The manual process looks like this. You open all 10 feedback entries. You read them carefully. You start trying to find patterns. You write notes. You figure out if price is the issue or condition is the issue or both. You draft a summary email. You edit it because the first draft is either too blunt or too soft. And then you still go into the call slightly nervous because you're not sure you've synthesized it properly. That process used to take me 2 hours, and I still sometimes felt like I was winging the conversation. This workflow produces something I can actually lean on. I'm going to open a text file that has the 10 fictional feedback entries I prepared for this demo. In real life, this is whatever format your showing feedback comes in. A CSS, a copy-paste from showing time, a string of text from buyer's agents. You're getting it all into one text block. Opening Claude, new conversation. I'm going to paste all 10 feedback entries and the analysis prompt in one block. This is the part that trips people up the first time. If I just paste the raw feedback without the structured prompt, Claude gives me a basic summary with no recommendations. I'll show you that failure mode in a moment, but first let me show you the full workflow. Before I send the structured prompt, here's what happens if I just paste the feedback and say summarize this. There you go, a perfectly decent summary paragraph. The majority of feedback pointed to price as a concern, and the kitchen was widely praised. Accurate. Useless. That's what I could have written myself in 5 minutes. What I need is analysis, not summary. I need to know what to do with this information. Let me open a new conversation and run the structured prompt. New conversation. Pasting the feedback block again, then the structured analysis prompt. Here's our structured output. Let me walk through the 3 themes first. Theme 1, price to condition mismatch. 7 of the 9 relevant feedback entries reference price, and 4 of those specifically mention the dated bathrooms or newer construction alternatives at lower price points. That's not an opinion. That's a pattern. Theme 2, the kitchen is the strongest asset. 8 of 9 entries mentioned it positively. That matters for the conversation with the seller. The kitchen renovation is working. It's just not overcoming the bathroom concern. Theme 3, active comparison to specific alternatives. Feedback 2 and 10 both name specific competing properties. That tells me buyers are doing real comparison shopping, not just browsing. Section 3, price versus condition. Claude's assessment. Price is the primary objection, but condition is the accelerant. Meaning, the dated bathrooms aren't turning buyers away on their own, but they're making it harder to justify the price point. That's a nuanced read, and it matches what I was sensing from the feedback. The recommendation for the seller isn't reduce your price or renovate your bathrooms. It's a layered conversation. That's actually useful. The 3 recommendations. I want to walk through these carefully because this is what you're presenting to your seller. Recommendation 1, a price adjustment to $472,000 to $475,000, supported by 4 feedback entries citing that range and the competing options at $465,000 to $479,000. Recommendation 2, cosmetic update to the master bath, specifically noting that even a light refresh at a low cost could reframe the price to condition conversation. Recommendation 3, update the online photos to better represent the backyard. Feedback 2 and 10 both noted the backyard was smaller than the photos suggested. That's a fixable perception issue, not a real size issue. All 3 are backed by the feedback data, not by my opinion. That's the key. When I present these to my seller, I'm not asking them to trust my instincts. I'm showing them what their buyers said. Now the seller-facing communication. This is the part one used to spend the most time editing, getting the honesty level right. Too blunt, and the seller gets defensive. Too soft, and they don't understand the urgency of the feedback. I'm going to prompt Claude for a draft that's honest but diplomatic. Here's the draft. It opens with the positive. The kitchen is working. Buyers are genuinely engaged. Then it transitions into the pricing feedback with specificity. 7 of 9 relevant feedback entries raised price as a factor, and 4 specifically referenced the comparable options at lower price points. Then the 3 recommendations, stated clearly. And the close. I'd like to walk you through these findings and talk about a few options. Can we connect Thursday? That's a natural conversation opener, not a hard pitch for a price reduction. I usually read this once, maybe change a word or two, and send it. The structure is right and the tone is right. This is what I used to spend an hour trying to get right manually. Copying the analysis report and the seller email draft. The full analysis goes into my listing file. I keep it for reference during the call. The email gets pasted into my email client. I do a final read, and I send it. The whole process, 8 minutes. Compare that to 2 hours of reading, synthesizing, drafting, and editing, plus still feeling slightly unprepared going into the conversation. Here's the full output of this 8-minute workflow. A structured analysis with 3 data-backed themes, a price versus condition assessment, 3 specific actionable recommendations, each tied to feedback entries, a conversation opener for the seller call, and a ready-to-send 200-word seller email that's honest without being brutal. The manual version of this, 2 hours of analysis and drafting, a conversation you go into slightly underprepared, and seller communication that's either too soft to create urgency or too blunt to land well. This workflow doesn't just save time, it makes the seller conversation better, because you're walking in with a structured case built from their buyer's own words. One thing I want to add, the analysis output is input for the conversation, not a replacement for it. Your seller may have context you don't, reasons they can't adjust price, timeline factors, emotional attachment to certain features. The report gives you the structure and the data grounding for a harder conversation. The judgment call in the room is still yours. The full analysis prompt and the seller email generation prompt are in the description, formatted and ready to copy. This is one of the workflows I get the most follow-up questions on from agents who've tried it, because the seller expectations conversation is one of the most consistently difficult parts of this job. If this solved a problem for you, drop a comment. The prompt pack for real estate agents has the full template, including a variation for weekly feedback reports. Link in the description. Subscribe for the next workflow every week.